Okay, we're live now, so welcome back to another town hall, everybody. I'm going to share my screen as usual, look at some notes, get started here. Okay, so this is my last week hosting the e-NABLE town halls. I'm going to be handing these over to Adam Jennings, who's going to be hosting them going forward. I put a note in the hub about this that Adam and I are going to sync up early next week to sort of get him all of the tools and process details he needs to fully take that over. And one of the side effects of that is we are going to have to make sure that the Zoom meeting is set up under an account that he can access as opposed to mine where it currently is. So the Zoom link, which has been the same every week for these meetings, is going to change. So next Friday, there will be a new Zoom link. And then that link should remain the same going forward, but it will be a new link from what it is now. So keep an eye out for that. If any of you have put that on your personal calendars, remember to update that. And because you won't be able to get in using the same link going forward. Excuse me. One moment here. Stays. There's all this air quality. I keep getting congested here. I'm sorry about that. So I only have one action item that we left over from last time. That was for Adam to work on a presentation template that volunteers can use to help get the word out about e-NABLE. And I'm expecting this is something that's going to take some time. So just mentioning that we still have that there.
Yep, currently working on it, not yet done.
Of course. Okay. We haven't been tracking the metrics for some time, but I did go over those metrics with Adam. So the Wildmont team will be taking that over as well and figuring out what they want to track and how they're going to track it. And I'll make sure they have access to all of our current data and data sources and all that. So that transition is in process. Our e-NABLE fund has been updated. So you can see here that it's now at just over 25K now that we've gotten the first installment out of the way for the Wildmont program. It's worth mentioning that 25K is historically been around that level wherein we start to, increase our fundraising efforts to try to refresh those funds. And so it's good timing because of course that's one of the things that the Wildmont team will be focusing on. And so that hopefully will lead to getting those numbers back up in the not too distant future. But that's still a healthy balance considering our run rate so far. That should keep us going for quite some time. Okay, we're just going to take a look at some of the posts from the hub this week, and then I have a couple of short topics that I need to address, and then I'll hand things over to you, Adam, if that sounds okay.
Yep, you got it.
All right, so first one here is from Connie Marchek. Anyone know how to close cases in Web Central? Yes, so you should have been able to it might be that it sounds to me like the recipient might not have marked the device as received and accepted, which is the final step needed in a case. But let's see. I'm just going to put a quick comment here that Connie, if you'll give me the case number, I can close it for you. And because I can do that from the admin side as well. And these are things we're going to have to talk about going forward as part of the transition process eventually to a new matching platform and how we do some cleanup and migrate things over from e-NABLE Web Central. There's lots to figure out there, but for now I can still try to help out on case management as needed there. Next one here is Maxie Hand for Jackson. Let's see. Maxie Nixon, a colleague approached me about designing a prosthetic hand for her 6-year-old son, Jackson. I was honored and excited. We were able to successfully design a prosthetic arm for a student that graduated last year. For that project, we had more time to work on designing and troubleshooting. In addition, the recipient was a student at our school, which made the project an easier task. The project for Jackson, however, was completely different. We were tasked with designing a hand tough enough to be battle tested by a 6-year-old, I like that, who loves to play outside with his friends. Working as a team, we were able to design a Spidey hand for Jackson without him losing any playtime. The attached video shows our initial prototype design. Special thanks goes out to my student team, my student, Corin Hope, I think, who took the lead on this project and went the extra mile to ensure that Jackson would not be disappointed with his new hand. It's a pleasure to work with Corin and Jackson's family in this life-changing project. I'm going to skip ahead and look at this video. It's 5 minutes, so I don't think we're going to get to see the whole thing. But
Just look at you. Okay.
Then in that case, look at the side of my head.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm actually gonna stop this
Alright,
because
now
I'm not sharing with the right
take this-
options
start
here.
with your full name And spell it, please.
Okay. My name is Nicole Butler Gross. NICOLE BUTLER GROSS.
And who are you? Like, what is your?
I'm gonna
I'm
skip ahead so we can see the device.
I'm sorry.
I assume I'm on the right video here. Let's see.
So I'm overly so school project and ran with it for my job.
Okay, so maybe, oh, this is mommy's perspective. I see. Oh, here's the one that we're looking for. Okay, so there's several.
Go ahead. What is it? Your hand.
It's supposed to be this one, I thought.
What do you mean?
It's supposed to be this one.
It is.
It's not this one.
Yeah.
Like that. It's supposed to be. Kim made it.
Can I help you?
Yes.
Okay. Students at my high school made this for you.
How many, Mom?
Isn't that crazy?
How many? All of them?
Ready? So many of them. We just need to see if this fits for you, okay? Now watch. And we can say, thank you, Mr. Nixon, for helping.
No.
Yeah. Ready? Now try it like this. Oh my god! Oh, that's so cool!
Can I make it outside?
Do you love it? You do? Pick something up.
Can I pick it up?
No, stop. Pick the bag up. Pick the bag up. Oh my god. That is so cool.
I'm gonna go outside.
Okay.
Let's go outside.
Yeah, I don't know how many of you caught that, but when he first put it on, the very first words out of his mouth were, "Can I take it outside?" That's great. Okay, so I encourage you guys to check this out and watch the other video here, which I won't take time for in the meeting here, but the other one is Mom's perspective, and I'm sure that's a great video as well. So thanks, Maxie, for sharing that. That's wonderful. It's always just the best to see the smile on kids' faces when they get that on for the
That's
first
awesome.
time. Yeah. I wish we could get a higher resolution version of that video. That was it was pretty fuzzy, but maybe he has the original somewhere.
I can ask for that.
That would be great. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
Adam was working on collecting some compelling videos that we might be able to use. So that would be a great one to get in the original quality. Okay, moving on. Ahmad, printing in Syria. Okay, we know Ahmad well, and looks like he has an update. Just realized it's been a long time since I posted here. I'm sure he's been busy. Glad to share with you my latest work in the field of prosthetics and orthotics in Aleppo, Syria. I've made braces for scoliosis. Now that's something new. Socket for lower amputation. Last thing, cosmetic hand using NIOP design. There's a lot to do using 3D printing. Well, this is pretty fascinating. A brace for scoliosis. Huh. Okay, and this is the socket for lower amputations. Wow. And a NIOP-based arm design. Wow. Okay, let's see. Is there any more detail here? There's a congratulations message somebody asking for a little more detail in lower limb socket. Yeah, so that's about all there is. I hope that we'll get some more details. It'd be nice if we could get him to either do a video or write up a blog post or something to talk about, tell us more about these, especially the brace for scoliosis, since that's so new. I'd be very interested in understanding how that works. How is it, customized for each individual? Have there been medical professionals involved in testing that? I have so many questions, but it looks fascinating.
I can follow up with him for this too.
Great. Well, I mean, Ahmad, as always, just amazing work you're doing, and thank you for sharing. It's great to see you back here. Maybe we could, Adam, sometimes, we invite sort of special guest presenters to these
Yeah.
town halls, maybe think about seeing if he, I don't know if it would work with time zone differences, but maybe see if he might be able to give a presentation. Okay,
Yeah,
and
that's really interesting.
last one we have here is Matthew with healthcare questions. Let's see, I'm a high school student looking into different medical and medical adjacent fields. I have a few questions for anyone about e-NABLE to hopefully learn more about the open source prosthetics and the movement as a whole. Feel free to answer as many or as few as you like. And it looks like he's already gotten one response from Alfred here. So he's asking, why did you initially get involved with e-NABLE? What's your role with e-NABLE? What does the process of design and testing look like when creating a device for someone? Do you create many different versions at once, iterate one at a time, or something else? What's your day job? How do these skills or skills from other hobbies translate to this volunteer work? What do you see as some other potential directions for the future of prosthetics? Are there other areas of healthcare you would like to see open sourced? And what advice would you give to a high school student who's interested in the intersection of 3D printing or engineering and healthcare? Great questions, and I hope he'll get some other answers. Alfred here responded. He's just joined to help as many people as he can. He's learning how it's done. What he's learned so far, let's see, this is the design process. It depends on digital photography to print an accurate fit. For the day job, I'm a retired quality assurance technician, just learning 3D printing, used to measure parts on a CMM. It's almost the same as, and is a natural transition. I'm now doing accessibility assessments for people with disabilities. Ah, interesting connection there, Adam. And 3D printing assisted devices is just one facet of the work I do.
So Alfred, just speaking of connections, Alfred is actually a transplant from Makers Making Change.
Ah,
So he was recommended to us by Chad Lehman, who spoke last month.
that's wonderful. Great to see those connections and
Yep.
collaborations. He says he's associated with companies in several countries, and there's such a pressing need to supply prosthetics to all people in need at no cost. And he's for total healthcare open sourcing. And lastly, he says volunteering is the first step to learn how to help others in need of prosthetics. Engineering will give you the skills and knowledge to improve the process and be able to produce even better devices. Sky's the limit for you. Wish you all the best with your future. Great response. Thank you, Alfred, for jumping in. I hope others will too. It's especially when we see it's sometimes hard to get a lot of engagement online in the forum like this. Adam has been working through that himself, but especially when we see a student like this reaching out, I really hope that we'll get as many responses as possible to get him inspired and moving in the right direction. So on we go. Okay, so upcoming e-NABLE events. We don't have any one-time events, but as far as our recurring meetings, the next one coming up is the Education and New Member Meetup. And it's on the calendar in the hub. I don't remember, is that this next Friday? Let's see. The 28th. Yep, so next Friday. And we've got the summary of meetings here, which we'll just take a quick peek at. Let's see, where are we at here? The 21st is today. So so I should have highlighted the Bionic Design Group. That's today, right, Sarah?
Well, it has been on the calendar, but Vivek is out of town, so I am hosting, and there is no guest. So I will start the meeting, and if anyone shows up with
We'll see who
questions, I
shows,
will talk to them. But I think it will probably be canceled.
Okay, well, thank you for
Um,
handling that. Who knows? Maybe somebody will show up and there'll be some interesting discussion, but
Yeah.
thanks for at least making it available. And then next week will be the Education New Member Meetup, and following, and the other one is the Town Halls, which are every Friday. So that's about it for this month's events then. Okay, a couple of quick topics before I hand things over to Adam here. The new matching platform, we continue to work together. Adam is going to be taking over, I should say Wildmont is taking over as the project management lead on this. So they'll be putting together a more detailed plan of work for Azer, our new volunteer. And in order to do that, we have scheduled a meeting with Thierry from e-NABLE France, and he may or may not be able to bring in one or more of his developers to that meeting. That's next Tuesday morning for us.
I
at
think
least.
he was saying that he lost his developer and doesn't currently have one.
Oh, well, that's unfortunate, but Thierry is a very knowledgeable individual. He should be able to at least give us a lot of what we need. So we'll be meeting with him Tuesday and getting a better insight into how to move forward and how their matching process works, other than what we see on the site and that sort of thing. And then Adam will be working with Acer to sort of put together the plan to get that site where we want it to be so that it can eventually become sort of a new homepage, e-NABLE.org. Instead of redirecting to another site, it will actually be e-NABLE.org, and it will have
Yeah,
all this great information about e-NABLE, and it'll be a
hoping it'll
place.
be very much a new homepage.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we will link out to these other resources that are not going anywhere. The hub's not going anywhere, Enabling the Future is not going anywhere, but we hope to establish this new site as the hub, which then links off to those other resources as needed. But this would be the place where people can more easily learn about us, find their way to what they need, and have a smoother onboarding process, basically, to get to where they want to be, as well as encouraging sponsorships, donations, et cetera, all that good stuff. So lots of work to be done. I'm very glad that Adam and Jason are going to be involved in that. And so that's well underway. Now, as part of that effort, we ran into a bit of a snag because we had a technical issue that caused the site to become inaccessible. And in order to get that resolved, I was required to activate the WPML plugin, which was causing a critical conflict. So in order to update that plugin, I had to activate it. I had to pay the $99.
Oh,
And so I did that using my own credit card. I did convey this to John just so that at least somebody knew what I was doing. And so I am now formally requesting reimbursement for that, because of course that is well within our authority to approve here in these meetings. And so for
All in
those here,
favor?
yeah, let me, actually,
I
where's my participants panel? Why am I not seeing you guys? Sorry, give me 1 second here. It just occurred to me that I usually see all my participants on the side and I'm not. Let's see. Maybe it's because, let me try resharing. Maybe it's because I shared for video playback. Let me try undoing that.
Jeremy, was that what is the WPML plugin?
That is the translation plugin, WordPress multilingual. That's what allows us to translate all the content into as many different languages as we need. So
Gotcha.
yeah, so that's pretty important. And right now there's, French and English, but we hope to add more languages. And it's a simple matter of just, adding copies of the pages in whatever other languages we want using this plugin.
Sure.
So that is
Is that like
activated.
an annual fee or something?
It is, yeah. So right now I activated it and I'm requesting a $99 reimbursement. I'm also requesting that we go
My
in.
thumb is up.
Okay, well, let's get that out of the way first. So let's just take a vote here. I see Sarah's thumbs up. Adam, you're in favor? And I see that we have Evan here with us. I see a thumbs up there. Thank you all. I'll go ahead and submit an expense through Open Collective for that. The second piece of this, and I'm glad you're here, Evan, is I need to ask for yet another Zoom meeting with you so that we can go in there and switch the card over to the Rochester card so that next year when the renewal comes up, it'll hit that card instead of mine. So if you don't mind, I'll reach out to you to schedule that.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. And while we're at it, I would also like to request authorization for the other plugin. And I believe this is the only other paid plugin that we're going to need to have this site fully functional. It's something that they use called the Meta Box Toolkit, which allows them to create custom elements on the site. I admit I don't fully know all the ins and outs of what it does, but it's a $69 plugin. I don't need to activate it right now, but we'll talk to Thierry in the meeting on Tuesday about it first. But after that meeting, I would like to have authorization to go ahead and get that activated. And so if we can approve that here, then I will schedule the meeting with Evan for after our Tuesday meeting so we can do both of these things at the same time. So let's take a vote on authorizing a $69 annual expense for the second plugin. I see Adam has a thumbs up, and I saw John thumbs up. Evan's a thumbs up. Okay, and Sarah? Thumbs up. Okay, and I'm of course a thumbs up on that. Okay, so we're all unanimous that both of these will be covered. And I'll schedule something with you, Evan, for next week, sometime after our Tuesday meeting with Thierry. I'll reach out to you by email for that. Last item that I have to talk about before I hand things over to Adam here is, in order to transition things over to Adam to host these town hall meetings, we have two options. Right now, Sarah is hosting some of our community meetings, and she's doing so under a shared Zoom account that we have set up under info@enable.org. I could give Adam access to that account and he could use that It's a little bit inconvenient only because I know Adam regularly uses Zoom himself, and I know he has his own Zoom account. And so it can be a little bit, of a hassle to have to be switching back and forth between different Zoom accounts. Another option would be that we add another Zoom account for Adam that he could use specifically for e-NABLE. That would require paying for another Zoom account though, which right now, that's why we're using a shared account, because it's, John, do you remember what that is? Are we doing it through that TechSoup thing?
I don't remember, but I was going to say that I could, there may be a Zoom account for e-NABLE assigned to me, and I would be happy to yield that to Adam.
Okay, and that's something else that actually we're going to have to figure out here, because as I think about this, this is all currently happening under my account. So I believe I'm actually paying for these accounts. Yeah, so I have my account, John's account, and the e-NABLE account all being paid for by 3D Universe. So you're saying, John, that we could switch this account over to Adam because you're using one under Eco Restoration Alliance?
Yes, and I move that we take the financial burden of those Zoom accounts off of you at this point also.
Well, I'm in favor of that. The trick there is, all of these recurring meetings that we have set up under the Info at e-NABLE account, they're going to have to move to another account, and that means they're all going to change. The links are all going to change. They're all going to be redone. So it's a bit of a project
at your convenience.
Yeah.
I will say that I actually don't use Zoom for my personal dealings. I use Teams or Google Meet pretty much exclusively.
Well, so maybe, I mean, you already have an e-NABLE email, right? It's adam@enable.org.
Yeah, I actually have two. Well, no, the email. Yes, I've got two hub accounts. One.
So maybe we should switch this Zoom account for now over to adam@enable.org so that you can use it that way.
Yeah.
And then we can figure out how to get both of these accounts moved into an e-NABLE Zoom account, so that it's not being billed to me when time permits. It's not urgent, but
okay. Yeah, no, I'm very comfortable with that. That's fine.
Okay, so let me just put that as an action item for me. Okay, I'll take care of that as soon as I get a chance. And with that, I will turn the rest of the meeting over to you, Adam.
Okay, great. Well, thanks, Jeremy. And I'm excited to touch base with you next week to talk a little bit more about the form and function of these calls. Really, I'm curious, are you, and maybe we can talk about this a little bit more offline, but are you planning on attending still?
I am.
Okay, gotcha. Well,
there
that
may
would
be
be helpful.
exceptions, but yes, I am planning to attend.
Yeah, I'm very happy to take the organizational and prep elements off your plate. But I think that we're going to continue to run into some technical questions and things to be answered in the call that you will remain, I think, the leading resource.
Yeah, no problem. And not to mention,
address.
we still have to kind of sort out how to get me unplugged from some other activities like the help desk and hub administration and the matching platform transition. There's a lot going on still that we need to figure out. So yeah,
and it looks like John is asking for the dial-in number.
Let me get that.
Yeah. So in terms of the rest of this call, Jeremy, did you want me to just walk through what Wildmont has been working on? Would you like me to? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sure. I'm sorry. I'm just getting the dial-in number for John. Let me paste this into the chat. There you go. Yeah, it's entirely up to you, Adam. I will just, you talk about whatever you feel is we're spending time on, and I'll do my best to capture some notes as we go if you'd like.
Okay, sure, great. Yeah, that's wonderful. I apologize. I didn't think to prepare slides or anything. I think that moving forward, that will be part of my standard prep for these calls. But let me just kind of walk through some of my leading action items and where I've been focusing on the outreach side, not the Wildmont side, to begin, and then we can kind of go item by item. It doesn't look like Tainara is on the call. So I can talk a little bit about what she, and to a lesser degree, she and I have been working on that front. So beginning with outreach, I think that we can consider our initial test for the Kabul initiative a success. The devices arrived in Kabul by way of Pakistan. We were able to partner with one of our Canadian chapters. It's a private Catholic school chapter in Ottawa by the name, oh my gosh, the name is escaping me. I apologize. I'll be sure to give them due credit next week. But they just jumped into this feet first and slapped out a bunch of devices. They look great. Packaged them up. Their school board actually approved to reimburse the instructor. And then their school board also reached out to their local news media, which actually passed on to Toronto news media. And they had a great little piece done about them for shipping these devices out there.
So I'm sorry, I got a message there while you were talking. I'm sorry, Adam. You said this is a school chapter that's taking the lead on the ground for this one?
Yeah, for this first test, just honestly, what this was ensuring that we could actually ship something and have it arrive. We weren't too concerned about, filling specific needs for individuals. It was really just a question of, can these materials make it across the line and get to the
so this
hospital?
school is in Pakistan?
This school is in Canada, and it
Oh.
was shipped to Kabul by way of Pakistan. So I've got a medical director of a hospital in Gilani province in Pakistan, who is our sort of intermediary, who is overseeing the shipment of this to Kabul from that point. So it's, getting directly into Afghanistan is not really feasible, shipping directly there.
Right.
So yeah, we've got sort of the node to ship devices. So really, my model that I'm exploring here, and that I think is more sustainable, certainly until we get something like a revised matching platform in place, is instead of attempting to match a single device to a single individual, working with prosthetists in the ground in developing areas and areas of conflict would allow us to ship more generic devices that could be filled by any community member without having to worry about specific sizing. To build up an inventory that the prosthetists can then, use their best judgment and adapt. And if they have any additional requirements that they would need to ask of us, would be able to assign it to the individual without too much fuss. So based upon Dr. Ramin's impressions, Dr. Ramin is the prosthetist who I'm working with in Afghanistan. He is very excited about the devices that they've received. I've yet to receive final pictures from the first devices that he fitted this week. But first impressions that I've heard are very positive.
You may have already thought about this, Adam, but if we're sending batches of devices to these prosthetists, I would recommend that we also include a package of extra materials.
Yeah.
Which I would be happy to sponsor, because we have bulk rolls of all the medical grade foam padding, the cords, the elastics, everything that goes into our assembly materials kits. So if you'd like, I could work with you on putting together some packs of extra materials that we could send.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Materials, also educational materials, I think, sort of IKEA style, textless pictures to show how devices can be assembled and maintained by the individual.
Well, so that's something we're going to have to work on. I will just make sure that you're aware of one thing, and I don't think this is what you're asking for, but it's the closest thing we have right now, which is we have these these are basically placemats that give you an exploded diagram, and then on the other side there's a step-by-step visual guide to the assembly process.
That's actually great. Actually, if you could just share the link for that. I've seen that, and it's one of 1,000 things that have just flown out of my head. But yes, that's super helpful. And I can share. I'd like to have something. You're right. I'd like to have something that's a little bit more, I guess, step by step.
Yeah.
And maybe even like a video that shows a simple assembly. I mean, my kid watches all of these Lego assembly builds. And I mean, they're so well done and they look so simple. So having something like that produced, that it would not just be for, people who've actually received the device, but I mean, that's the kind of stuff that is in itself a kind of marketing tool.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I think
that'd be
that would be
great.
really exciting. I'm over the moon, honestly. Just the fact that we got anything there is a major accomplishment in my mind. So
Absolutely.
we're
Yeah, that's
we're
a big
hopefully going to be able.
success.
Yeah, the next thing I want to mention is that I won't mention them by name because they are um, an Afghanistan vet who is really interested in assisting with this endeavor moving forward. I believe that if we can get this to a place where it's workable and sustainable, he will be
Did you say an
maintaining
Afghanistan vet?
veteran, not
Oh,
veterinarian.
okay, okay.
Not a veterinarian. Yeah, so they will be maintaining some confidentiality, but they're an e-NABLE member, and they're really interested in working in this front. That I think they have a very personal connection here and a desire to help rebuild this part of the world. And I think that they're an ideal person to kind of oversee contact and logistics. I'm very excited and grateful for their support and their insight. We had a nice long conversation this week where they shared some insights that hadn't even occurred to me, which frankly made me feel kind of foolish for not having considered. So their insight and expertise will be very, very, very valuable. We're also going to be with this person. I'll be working to identify a buffer for people who are shipping these devices. Working with other aid organizations as the go-between. I think for this region specifically is going to be a much wiser plan. So just moving forward, I am going to be making sure that this is in a place where it's able to be sustained, and then kind of passing the reins for the Kabul initiative specifically to this person. So we can talk more about this offline, but I think this is a very positive step. To that end, I think that as outreach, and if we're looking at like targeted outreach initiatives as a go forward strategy, there is another area in Nigeria where I've been in talks with a prosthetist by the name of Taiwo Akinsanya. He is a Nigerian prosthetist who has founded a company called Dynalim Technologies. He's incorporating 3D printing into a lot of his patient care. And I've mentioned him, I think a few months ago. I brought up Taiwo as someone that I was having some initial talks with. But he's very interested in working with e-NABLE and working with our volunteers to try to serve the tens of thousands of amputees in his region who are currently underserved. So he can do what he can. His limitations include lack of access to filament, or at least appropriate filament for the designs that he prints. He lacks reliable access to electricity, and has on more than one occasion had a print ruined by power shutting off mid-print. So while it's something that he is a technology he's excited about, it's one that is maybe not best suited for his neck of the woods. We are discussing setting up something like what we've been trying to accomplish in Afghanistan by having a sort of inventory supply chain. Something that can be maintained, something that anyone who joins the e-NABLE community would be able to provide a print for, or at least components for, that I think could be a really interesting way to adapt our model to help a much larger number of people who have much more dire need, or at least are in an area that don't have any other forms of prosthetic support. So I'll pause there if anyone has any questions or thoughts, or whether this is an area of interest.
Absolutely, an area of interest. This is wonderful. I mean, I know one of our key challenges for some time now has been that we have so many volunteers that want to be making devices, but they want to know that they're actually going to somebody who needs
Right.
them. And we've struggled to to close the loop on that, to be able to provide a good pool of people that really need this kind of help. So this is exactly what we need to be focusing on.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, for this region, I think that e-NABLE could shift to entirely this kind of effort and keep everyone in the community busy for the foreseeable future. There's such a huge. Go ahead, John.
I was going to say, I think that would be great. I think it's worth thinking about videos and communications that review the approaches to customization. That's going to be important, but these things can be reshaped in hot water, and that's going to be an important issue.
And I just want to add that you know, one of the other things we've really been working hard to do is figure out how do we get our volunteers to include the medical professionals in the process of getting these devices, you know, delivered to people. And that's what I love about this program that you're doing, Adam, is it solves that issue, because it's actually removing the volunteer from being the one actually, you know, fitting a device to a person. You know, it's a professional that's actually doing that part. And I love that aspect of it.
I think this doesn't negate the maker's own expertise. I don't think we need to, when I was trying to think of like the things to put in the con column, once this got a little bit closer to looking like a possibility, it's that, you know, I think that makers want to know they're helping a specific person.
Yep.
They want to like have a face and a name, and I think all of that is very reasonable. I think that we can make sure that people don't feel like they're just like a cog churning out off-the-shelf designs by just sharing some stories at a regular cadence.
Well, there's that aspect. You can do it in a general way, but let me also suggest one of the things that we've talked about for a long time is asset tracking, and the idea of having a unique identifier on each device that we produce, so that each one would get a serial number or something, which could even be 3D printed onto the design, but it's probably easier to do it with some kind of labeling. If we could come up with the mechanism for tracking that so that we know exactly which serial numbers were sent to this place, that prosthetist could report back which one went to specific individuals, we could potentially actually get to the point of being able to say, Joe, your donation went to, you know, a 30-year-old male in this region. You know, we don't have to give any personal details, but we could at least tell them about who it went to specifically, you know.
No, I think that's a great idea. And I think that would also help if, you know, people are badged with specific devices, like you've got your Phoenix hands, your kinetic hands, it's the two main camps, it seems like. You know, if someone has a kinetic hand break, which from my understanding, a lot of folks feel strongly about it being more durable or more aesthetically pleasing or whatever, then we wouldn't, you know, put out a call to all the Phoenix hand builders that this kinetic component.
Well, and that's the other benefit of a proper tracking system, is not only are you tracking, you know, an identifier, but you're tracking the key details of that device. What was the scale percentage that was used? What material was it printed? What color? And that way, if a piece breaks, you could have another volunteer just say, okay, I need a kinetic index finger at 115% scale in white PETG. You know,
I just got goosebumps. That would be amazing if we could make that work.
Another version of that is to have the maker create a postcard, self-addressed postcard, to go with the device, with a message saying, you know, dear recipient, I don't know you, but I hope you will enjoy this device. If you would like, please pop this in an email and tell me how it's going.
That's a nice idea too.
Yeah, I think that if this takes off, and if this has the desired effect of not only better helping people and providing more work for volunteers in this community, but also expanding the size of our community and expanding the attention that e-NABLE is getting, and making it possible to reach out and make these ties in more parts of the world. You know, having a tracking system, and it was obviously, I don't want this to be like a community that services one prosthetist. Not to minimize Taiwo's work, because I think he's doing some pretty incredible stuff. But I think that what we all want to do, and kind of getting back to that mission and vision question that I put on the hub this week, is you know, actually change the level of access that a person with a limb difference can expect to receive. And actually, I wanted to pass things over to Sarah. Sarah, I don't mean to put you on the spot. We didn't talk about this at all. But Sarah and I have been talking about this a little bit, that we are a very maker-centric organization currently, and that I think that we could do ourselves a tremendous service by doing a much better job of reaching out not only to healthcare practitioners, but also to individuals with limb difference, and among other forms of disability. So Sarah, I just wanted to ask, like, if you had any insight or thought there about, and again, if you don't right now, we can maybe talk about this next week. But just general thoughts on maybe doing a little bit better job of being inclusive of the communities that we're purporting to serve.
Yeah, I
Oh.
I still think that should be one of our key priorities. I think that there should be more of a process for inviting recipients and people who reach out asking for help to participate and share more with us. And I think that we could do more to reach out to different organizations and people working with people with limb differences and disabled people themselves. Yeah, that's something that I would like to spend more time working on going forward. So
Okay. Well, maybe let's you and I connect about how we can start that conversation, because
yeah,
what I really don't want to do is continue too far down any path. I mean, nowhere without about us without us. Just
right.
trying to make sure that folks are actually guiding these conversations, that folks
Mhm.
impacted by this kind of endeavor are helping to guide, not just piping in here and there or being allowed to say a word or two.
Right.
No, I think that'll be vital. So awesome. Yeah, I'd really appreciate your input, and let's connect next week to talk about what some first steps would be, if that's okay.
Yeah, that would be great.
Cool. Awesome. Anyway, what's been lighting my fire on the outreach front has really been these targeted locations. I will say that on the rehab engineering side, we've I've finally gotten word back from Ability KC, which is the rehabilitation program. It's a large scale nonprofit organization based in Kansas City that serves a wide variety of adults and children with developmental and acquired, primarily neuro, but a wide array of diagnoses, including amputation. That was where I cut my teeth as a physical therapist, where I primarily worked as a clinician treating amputees my early days about a decade ago. So they are still very interested. They've been very busy this summer. The summer is their fundraising season, where they have like their Day at the Lake activity, which is a big sponsored event, a big fundraising event where they have a bunch of adaptive activities and boating things up in North Kansas City at Smithville Lake. It's really fun. And then they've just got everything happens in the summer, so they've been hard to get a hold of. But I'm hoping that the next week or two, I can have a sit down, hopefully on site, with the rehab director and their director of, well, kind of like my corollary. I forget her exact role, but basically their outreach coordinator, to talk about how we can help serve. Really, what I'm seeing, or what I envision, I should say, is as another potential avenue for what our community members can work on, being activities and devices that are more targeted to practitioners instead of recipients. So when we say rehab engineering, part of that is in the development of assistive technology, the kind of things that we've been doing with our state Assistive Technology Act partners that are continuing to build little bit by little bit, but also in creating tools that OTs and PTs and rehab techs and physicians and therapists of all stripes can utilize in their practice. My wife is a speech language pathologist, and she's worked with adults and kids in homes and in clinics and all kinds of things. She shared with me a couple of weeks ago an article about in the National American Speech and Hearing Association publication about a speech pathologist who is 3D printing tools to for a specific type of treatment. And these are things that when acquired normally would cost the therapist like something like $2,000 or $3,000, but cost less than $100 to print. And I think that that kind of innovation and that kind of support, if we were to have a program that partnered chapters in specific regions with rehab facilities and clinics in those regions, I think that there could be just an explosion of creativity and cost savings for these people, especially these organizations that are traditionally very underfunded, like therapy departments tend to be. I don't know. I think there's a lot of potential there too. I think that the next natural question is like, how does this fit in, and how do we prevent ourselves from being overextended between like looking at global outreach and trying to better support individual chapters? I think that that's a very valid point, and maybe maybe that's something that just I'm concerned about. But that is part of what I'm hoping Wildmont and Jason and the sort of this big push, this coordinated effort can help us to define and prioritize. But I'll pause again. Any questions, or I realize I'm rambling a little bit.
I think it's really good, Adam. I think the cautionary notes that you keep throwing in are on point, but I think the number of new ways you're thinking about doing this and the progress you're making on it is exactly right. Other people involved is going to be important, because if many of these things you're taking on take off, even you and Jason are not going to be able to manage them all. And we do have a lot of volunteers. So you're going to want to think about that also.
Yeah. Well, and thanks. That's a great point, and that's really why I mentioned the individual who will likely be taking over the Kabul initiative, if that remains a going concern. I think that assigning captains, for whatever we want to call them, for all of these different areas of focus, and making sure we have people who are committed and who are interested in staying to at least to accomplish a specific goal, are the only way that we're going to create something that lasts. But no, that's a great point, John, and I'm certainly not planning to juggle all of these things independently. I'm hoping that if we cast a wide enough net, use enough different kinds of bait, that we can at least get a few of these to take hold and become sort of part of the fabric of what it is that e-NABLE is.
Bet.
So. One last thing that this is almost silly, but there's one thing that's really just a pet project that I wouldn't put it in outreach or in the Wildmont bucket. Something that occurred to me this really just on like Tuesday is that the first thing that pops into my head when I hear makerspace or maker isn't 3D printing, it's Lego. And Lego is just a huge part of my life. My older son, Jack, he is kind of a Lego wonderkind. He was starting at around the age of like 3.5 or so. He started putting together sets, and then through the pandemic, Lego sets were kind of like our babysitter. While we couldn't, couldn't do daycare or anything like that, everything was shut down. And he puts together like these enormous, like this giant Millennium Falcon that was, 18 plus. There's like 3,000 pieces or something crazy he put together entirely independently when he was 5. And just all of this this enormous amount of potential that Lego offers. I thought, this is something that seems very much in keeping with the spirit that we try to capture, and it also skews a lot younger, even though adults are, I think much more so recently. There are a lot of kits that are being produced specifically for adults, things that are like, display pieces and pieces of 90s nostalgia, that adults are obviously being marketed to here very successfully. But my thought was that, is there a path forward, or is there a way that we can incorporate Lego into part of our little ecosystem? And I wanted to kind of turn that over just as a point for thought to this group, and whether that's an area that people in the larger community are currently engaged in. So I'll just kind of pause there. Is that something that feels like it could be an area of interest?
I'll go. There have been a couple of enable devices that had Lego blocks. Remember what they were? Maybe pen lights or something onto their hand in a modular fashion. I think it's a fine idea.
So I think in that case, the device itself was not made out of Legos. The device was made like our devices currently are made, but they had a 3D printed interface that would receive Legos that you could use to build onto the device and that kind of thing. Because the thing I find myself thinking about is, okay, if you can figure out a way to build some kind of an actual assistive device out of Legos, I guess my first question is, well, what keeps it from falling apart? I mean, Legos are just, would you glue them together? I'm not quite seeing how that would work. I find myself wondering if there might be more value thinking about it specifically in an educational sense. I mean, we have a lot of classrooms that are involved with the e-NABLE, and I could see it more figuring out some way of them using Legos in the classroom to explore certain ideas and concepts and things that don't have to actually be used, and hold up to actual use, but as a learning tool, perhaps.
Yeah, so that's exactly my thought too, Jeremy. So 2 things on that. And first, I acknowledge we only have a couple of minutes left, so I want to land the plane here in just a moment. But I reached out to a guy who he's not super online. I reached out to him via Instagram, which seemed to be where he posts most of his content. He's an individual by the name of David Aguilar. He lives in Andorra. He was actually in the Guinness Book of World Records last year for building the first fully functional, resilient prosthesis made entirely out of Lego pieces. So part of what he does, he was born without a fully developed right arm. So above the elbow is where his point of connection is for any prosthesis on the right side. He creates prosthetics out of Lego that are weight bearing. He has videos of himself like doing push-ups with his devices and things. He's a really interesting guy, and I'm hoping that he gets back to me so we can talk about some of this. But I've also reached out to Eric in our community about how we can marry up some of these ideas. Maybe working with this guy David, who goes by the name of Hand Solo, very cleverly online, and see if we could potentially access his build design and share that on our site. If we could incorporate that into programs that we could target to younger STEM labs, younger educational settings than we currently get. I think that primarily we seem to be getting high school and college age kids. I think that if we maybe had a track, we had a program that could be replicated at the school level, I think that like the primary school level, I think that could be pretty impactful. And I think that could do a lot to increase interest in this space. I'm not sure how that neatly aligns with our mission and vision, whatever that might be. But I just wanted to float that out there as something that that I think is kind of exciting, in a way that I mean, honestly, pie in the sky. If this takes off, whether that would be a way to get a sponsorship or partnership agreement with Lego itself, to see if we could, you know, garner a little bit of attention, a little bit of support there.
Very cool.
Just a thought.
Yeah. I'm just looking at the photos. So this is not what I was picturing. I mean, he's not just using Lego blocks. It's using more like the
Technic, yeah,
Technic. Yeah. Like where you've got the, you know, bars and rods
Yep.
and all kinds of other, that makes a lot more sense. Okay.
yeah, pretty resilient stuff.
Yeah. That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, we've got a couple of Technic builds that have been chucked against the wall a few times that still hold up. So anyway, I think we're just about at time. I just want to raise that as something to, you know, if something comes of this in the months down the line, you can remember that I brought it up. But any other thoughts, any other topics to discuss before we close the call? Okay, Jeremy and I will connect next week about passing over more proper management of these town halls moving forward, so that I can be a little bit more organized. And then we will, Sarah and I, all put something on your calendar, so that we can talk a little bit about trying to incorporate recipients and you know, people impacted by this work more directly into the decision making.
So keep an eye on the hub next week, folks, for the new Zoom link for these town halls. It will be updated on the calendar, and the usual post that goes out ahead of the meetings will include the new link. So like I said, make sure to update your calendars if you have that on your own.
Okay.
All right. Thanks all.
Thank you. Bye.
See you next time.
Thanks, everybody.